It was August 17th, 2015. Two paramedics were in an ambulance on their way to a small car wreck that had occurred off the highway. On their way, they passed another wreck, much worse than the one they were on their way to. One paramedic turned to the other and said, "Fender bender or body bag?" I was the body bag. Hello, my name is Jacob Pakele, and today I would like to talk to you about purpose and how one car accident changed my life forever. It was an average summer day. I had just returned home from a vacation with my family, and it was a Monday evening, and I knew I had sports practice that evening. So my truck was in the shop, so I decided to use my grandparents' four-door blue Lexus to get me there instead. It was a typical afternoon car ride with some nice weather, so I decided to roll down the windows and sunroof and blare some G-Eazy because that's the time when he was relevant. So I was enjoying my music, nice weather, and I slowly rolled up to a red light at an intersection and stopped. I soon woke up with no clue as to what had occurred. I slowly stumbled out of my car in my socks with my tight sneakers off due to the impact. I woke up to what looked like a war zone with many people running, shouting, and grabbing their phones. I also looked around and saw a mess of cars and all glass all underneath my feet. And it was at this moment I had realized I was in an accident. According to witnesses, there was a driver of a two-door white truck that was going 75 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone who was swerving in and out of cars and running red lights. And in her road rage, she slammed into the back of my stopped car, shoving me between two cars in front of me, as you can see. At the moment I realized I was in an accident, I looked around and shouted if everyone was okay. In this moment, I had lost consciousness and fell into the arms of this stranger before I hit the ground. The man who caught me was stocky with a white shirt and black pants that had a facial complexion that was dirty yet clean all at the same time. To this day, my family and I still believe that he was an angel because he was there the entire time. He took care of me and he helped me when I had my wreck, and I'll never forget it. So everyone gets emotional, and so I asked him if I could cry, to which he replied, "Of course you can." So there I was on the side of the pavement being held by this stranger angel, and he said something to me that I would never forget. "God must have big plans for you because you should have been dead." At this moment, I lost consciousness again, and I was totally out of it. I later woke up to an officer who was shouting and asking me who to call that lived closest and that could come help. I decided to give them my dad's phone number because I was in Mansfield and so was he, so it seemed intelligent at the time. Now, quick word of advice to anyone who's in a car accident or traumatic experience. Remember to always call your mother first. She's here now. That's all I'm going to say about it. So my dad later arrived, and he helped me, and he was talking to the officer while the stranger looked up at my dad and said, "I'm not going anywhere, you take your time." So my dad talked to the officers while I'm still being held by the angel stranger. So later they helped me into the gurney to get in the ambulance to get ready for transport to the nearest hospital. I soon see the stranger, walk away, and to this day, we don't remember his name or what he exactly looked like, and he was also never mentioned in the police reports, so my family and I use that as our angel proof as well. So as they're stabilizing me in the ambulance, I am up in the gurney, sliding in the ambulance, and off in the distance, I see this woman who is crying, screaming, running surprisingly in high heels as fast as she can to where I was. I also heard my grandfather yelling at firemen because they weren't letting my mother, who was the woman, through to get to me in the ambulance. Luckily for them, they let her in to come see me. She approached me in the ambulance, crying, just tears down her face, but she had a sigh of relief on her that I was okay. So she hops in the front seat, and I remember her just drilling the paramedics over information as to what happened and all that, why I went in and out of consciousness on the way to the hospital. We later arrived where I had 5 CT scans, and I had 5 CT scans, and the diagnosis was cracked ribs, brain swelling, and a Chiari malformation type 1, and a bunch of other stuff, as you can see here, that I don't know how to pronounce. This was one of the biggest miracles that has ever happened to me in my life. But I do not want you to think I came out of this car wreck unscathed. Of course, I had bruises and cracked bones and massive head injury, and because of that, I missed the first 2 weeks of my junior year, as some of my friends know. Because of my head injury, I had a concussion, and I was forced to stay in a pitch black dark room, and if any of y'all know who've had a concussion, you can't see anything bright or anything like that, like no TVs and phones. Not saying I didn't cheat. I also visited a physical trainer for back pain that I had afterwards, and which I still have to this day. I also had a fear of ever entering a car again, and often had panic attacks where I would frantically look in my rearview mirror thinking somebody was going to hit me and this would happen all over again, or I was going to hit somebody else, and it was just hard. Besides physical and mental injuries, I also entered a deep depression, wondering where my life was with my family and my friends, and most importantly, with God. I often questioned whether I was even supposed to survive and that God hadn't finished the job. And I often wondered why I was saved and that I didn't really know where I was going in life. And I figured, I don't know. I remember calling my parents and my friends, crying profusely, telling them I was no good and I was kept alive for absolutely no reason. It had become worse, too, where I thought about taking my own life as well, driving into a pole or tree and just ending this guilt I had. But in these moments where I felt like I was supposed to die, I had cried and I had prayed, and over time I had realized that God had blessed me and God had saved me with this wonderful life I have today. And I realize this, I have a purpose here on earth, and I don't know what that is yet, but I know that He is not done with me. And you all have a purpose too. And since you're all standing here today with me, I guess He's not done with you either. Thank you.